In this modern day and age of the CUV, more and more automakers are coming out with off-road trim levels to seem more rugged, and it also seems like more often than not we have to sift through the ones that are real or malarkey. The latest aggressor of these SUV crimes seems to be the Hyundai Santa Fe, with an all-new redesign with a much more rugged exterior and a more practical interior. Today we're in Western Maryland at Green Ridge once again. It's not the hardest trail in the world, but I want to find out if this Hyundai Santa Fe XRT is guilty of this crime or not. Shall we? So this rather obscure looking SUV next to me, my friends, is the new 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe. This one in particular is the XRT trim. This one is finished in Hyundai's OEM Hampton Gray, and it's also got a sticker price, as it's sitting next to me, of about $42,000. It is the mid trim, but you still get a decent amount. So you know that the XRT is Hyundai's rugged off-road trim, just like Honda's Trail Sport division, Subaru's Wilderness division, the CX-50 Meridian from Mazda. Hyundai does give you some things to make the Santa Fe a little bit more off-road capable compared to a stock one. First of all, it's 1.3 inches taller. Hyundai increased ground clearance in the front and the rear to give the Santa Fe 8.3 inches of ground clearance. It is an improvement, but it's not like Subaru's at 8.7 inches. We also get slightly larger all-terrain tires, and they're wrapping around these 18-inch XRT specific alloy wheels, which are black and they do look rugged. With the XRT as well, we also get a shovel in the front. It's pretty low-hanging, but it is an aluminum skid plate. I'm glad we have that today. Granted, Green Ridge really won't be much of a debacle for this car. Unfortunately, we don't get any enhanced recovery in the front or the rear in the Santa Fe, but it's not a real off-roader anyway. Finally, the XRT trim gives us these handles that allow you to work out. I mean, really, it's made so you can put things on top of your adventure Hyundai. If the off-roady XRT trim isn't quite for you and you're looking for a more normal-looking Santa Fe, Hyundai does offer 4 other trims for this box on wheels. We started the base SE for $35,000. After that, we moved to the SEL, then the XRT like this one. Then we have the 2 luxurious trim levels of the Santa Fe, the Limited and then the fully optioned Santa Fe Calligraphy for almost $50,000. So there is quite the range of pricing for this thing. Regardless of what its looks may be portraying, this Santa Fe actually still uses a normal gas 2.5 4-cylinder. You can get a hybrid for the Santa Fe, but this one seems like the more sprightly engine option. So under the hood of this Santa Fe XRT is this 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. It's turbocharged, direct injected, of course, using Hyundai's GDI technology, and it's making 277 horsepower and 311 pound-feet of torque. This one also uses Hyundai's H-Track all-wheel drive system, which is optional. This one mainly uses the front wheels until the front wheels slip, and then it uses a clutch pack in the center to send up to 50% of power to the rear axle. And when it comes to sending power from side to side, this thing relies solely on its brake-based traction control system. In terms of MPGs, Hyundai rates the Santa Fe with the 2.5 liter turbo at 19 in the city, 25 on the highway, and a combined rating of 22. Unfortunately, in real life driving, I haven't seen those numbers. I've been mainly seeing like 18 mpg, 18 to 19 miles a gallon. This engine gets pretty much the same MPGs as its only V6 rival in this segment, the Honda Passport. The looks of the Santa Fe are actually quite deceiving. This thing sits at 190 inches long, making it actually 1 inch longer than the Honda Passport, 6 inches shorter than the larger larger Hyundai Palisade and 8 inches longer than the smaller Hyundai Tucson. This thing is actually a little bit larger than its predecessor as well, as the Santa Fe comes standard now with 3 rows of seats. Around the back of what I feel like is Hyundai's modern rendition of the Toyota Previa, we do get a power tailgate. This also uses that Hyundai Smart Access tailgate, so if you walk up and stand behind the XRT, you can have the trunk open on its own without having to wave your foot. It's turned off on this one because it kind of gets annoying, but it is a power tailgate. Behind the third row, as you can see here, you get 15 cubic feet of volume. There is thankfully some space underneath the third row, enough for the jack and also a little bit of storage. This also has a spare tire, but of course it is a donut and it's underneath the Santa Fe. Clearly this does not have a power folding third row, but the manual feature on this is totally fine. You can see this third row does recline here, but it's very easy to just drop the third row. This gives you 41 cubic feet of volume, a pretty usable amount of space. I like that Hyundai gives you power releasing buttons to drop the second row seats. They're on the passenger side of the car. There's a button for the right, and then there's a button for the left. I think I have something on that seat, that's why. But then that gives you 80 cubic feet of volume. That's quite big, and again, bigger than some of its competitors. In terms of amenities in the trunk, there's a 12-volt power outlet right here on the driver's side, and on the passenger side, there's a 115-volt 3-prong power outlet. And as practical as the Santa Fe is inside, it's also pretty practical in terms of towing as well. Hyundai rates the Santa Fe with all-wheel drive and the towing package to tow 3,500 pounds. Otherwise, you're only going to be towing 1,500 pounds. So if you're interested in this car and you found out that it has a third row, this is where I'd be pretty interested. Thankfully, Hyundai makes it pretty easy to get into the back of this car. They just provide you with this button, similar to Honda with their Pilot, but if you push it, it actually does the process all the way instead of the Pilot just does it halfway, but it's the same maneuver. If you can see me, I'll demonstrate on this side. It's pretty easy. It lets you get in. I can climb on in here and show you it's actually surprising. Now, first of all, I'm 5'9". I will slide the seat back in just a second. When I'm normally sitting in the third row, this is how my knees are. If I slide this back, this goes all the way back in its tracks. It is tight, but I do fit back here. And because this thing is shaped like a box, headroom is in abundance. There's also an air vent for each side as well, and also this rear AC climate control. It only turns the fan on and up and down. I do like that Hyundai provides you with that same button to release the second row seat on the top next to the headrest. So it just slides it and I can hop right out. Thankfully, accessibility becomes more of a priority in the second row. Step-in height is quite easy, even though this one is a little bit taller than the normal Santa Fe. And you'll notice as you sit in here, it's actually quite comfortable. The bottom of the seat is soft, thankfully. This XRT trim does not offer heated second row seats. In terms of amenities, this rear seat does recline. Thankfully, there's just a lever on the right and you can recline pretty far back. We also have an armrest in the center here, which is pretty soft, and 2 small cup holders. Something else I like back here are the little hooks for bags on the back sides of both of the seats. Just like the Honda Pilot as well, you have 2 cup holders on each door for the rear passengers, as well as another big bottle holder at the very bottom of the door. Thankfully, there are air vents on the B pillars for the rear passengers, so we do have ventilation back here. I really like this center console in this car because it's very usable for both the front and rear occupants of this SUV, because not only the front seat occupants can open the center console normally up like this, the rear seat passengers can open it from the back like this too, which is very cool. And it's very deep as well because there's this whole sliding tray down here that the rear passengers can also access, which the front seat passengers can access if you lift a secret compartment. There's also USB Type-C ports on both back sides of the seats, and you can see more of the H design back here. Before we go up front, I wanted to talk about two things. First of all, the headroom back here is really good. Again, I'm 5'9" and I have great headroom. This seat is all the way back in its tracks, and this seat is in my driving position, and I have so much legroom. You can slide these seats forward all the way like this, so the third row passengers can get much room as well, or you could slide them all the way back. So welcome to the interior of the new Hyundai Santa Fe. It actually is much better in here than it is outside to me, because it's really practical and I like the layout of this interior. You may notice that the steering wheel right off the bat looks like it came from a Land Rover. It also has paddle shifters on the back side of it. The horn, good sounding horn, causing a ruckus in the neighborhood. There are buttons on the wheel. The left side, those buttons control the cruise control and some of the other driver assistance settings. This XRT has the more base gauges. You can get a full LCD screen in the limited and the calligraphy models, but this one has this more simple setup. Anyways, the buttons on the right side of the wheel control more of the audio system as well as the Bluetooth functions. You can also see this little nub on the top of the steering column. This is Hyundai's driver attention monitor. Behind the steering wheel though, we can see that the headlights are automatic, and on the right side, the wipers are not automatic, but plenty of adjustments. Thankfully, pretty much every touch point of this interior is soft touch. I'm not sure if it's real leather though, but everything looks nice and feels nice, thankfully. Behind the steering wheel, oh, I put the thing in neutral, but behind this steering wheel, we have this electronic shifter, just like in the Ioniq models. Thankfully, it isn't phallic shaped anymore. And you can see this has a backup camera. No 360 cam in the Santa Fe XRT, but it does have a clear and crisp backup camera with 3 different views. It has a top-down view, a normal view, and also a wide-angle view as well. As we look at the center, we can see the 12.3-inch touchscreen display. It thankfully works quite nice. It uses wired and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I like Hyundai's infotainment system. It's been non-offensive to me. It's pretty quick. It's not glitched out on me. Below the screen, we can see that Hyundai provides us with physical controls for the radio. Thankfully, we have a volume and tuning knob, but I'm not too crazy about the fact that all the controls and the buttons for the climate control are in this screen. I don't like that there's only an audible response. I wish there was some physical feedback in the response, so I just prefer buttons. Thankfully, the controls for the temperature for the driver and passenger are easy to reach, and all the buttons are easily laid out. Below that, we have some more physical buttons for the drive modes and cameras and such. We can also see the 2 USB Type-C ports as well as the wireless charger. I really like all the platforms and layers where you can put things. You can put things on top of the wireless charger, near these 2 ginormous cup holders, and underneath the wireless charger, there's more storage where you can put a purse or anything down here. And then again, we have this trick center console with the 2 layers. The last things I wanted to talk about before it gets too dark are the seats. First of all, the driver's seat, it's 8 ways with 2-way power lumbar, which is nice. The seats offer plenty of support, especially considering this is a Santa Fe. Higher trims do get fancier seats, so just remember that this is what you get with the XRT. Also, the passenger seat on this XRT trim is completely manual. Besides that, this thing has a single pane moonroof, which is kind of on the small side. The XRT trim has a manually dimming rearview mirror, which is funny. I haven't seen one of those in a while. Going back to the storage situation of this car, there's actually 2 center consoles. There's one on top, which I like. There's this little tray, just like an older Highlander and also Honda Pilot. And there's a big glove box as well. So there's a lot of practicality in this car, but I think it's just about dark. As always, when we're at Green Ridge, we begin with Piclick Run. This is a rutted hill area. It does go a little ways beyond that as well, but it's a little bit easier. But we should be able to get some wheel spin and some wheels in the air. So before we get eaten by these gnats, let's get started. As we know, the Santa Fe uses an 8-speed wet dual clutch transmission. So I don't know what's the best thing to do. There's no dedicated off-road mode, so I'm just in drive. And response is good, it just does take a little bit to get it going. In sport mode, it's actually much better. Wow, much better. Yeah, it actually takes a lot less effort to get this going in sport mode. It feels like the clutch is just prematurely engaged. It doesn't feel like it's slipping like in normal mode. It's actually, already getting some wheel spin, so we might have some more action in this video than not. Interesting. We'll see this mogul up here, or this big rut. I'm coming up on it now. Because I have that skid plate, I have some more confidence in my chin at least. I would expect it to slip by now. You can hear how the clutches engage better in sport mode. I'm not gonna do what you think. I'm gonna ride this over the middle. And then maybe I'll cut right. Maybe now? Any action? Anything? It's actually less dramatic off-road than I thought it would be. So I want to go up this way. If I go up earlier, it'll be way too steep. Maybe we'll get some wheel spin here. Okay. This is something. So first of all, we have the passenger front wheel in the air and the driver's rear wheel in the air. We have the H-track system hung up. Let's see what it does. I'm still just in sport mode. I'm just keeping my foot on the gas. Okay, it does it. Okay. So that was four-wheel drive lock off. All I did, oof, you can smell the car is not happy. So I'll only do that once more with four-wheel drive lock. All that does is permanently, well, more permanently engage the rear clutch pack. It bites more. Wow, okay. As you can see, this is pretty impressive. But it's only been 2 minutes and I feel like I've smelled clutch already. So this is not an off-roader like this. I'm still in sport mode because that seems like the best way to not get the clutches to be annoying. What I'll do, I guess, because I have it, I'll turn on the four-wheel drive lock button and see what that does. This one usually gets most all-wheel drives hung up. It got my XC90 hung up, but it did crawl out of it, so we'll see what this does. What? Wow. Oh. Oh, okay. So again, four-wheel drive lock is on. Wow, okay, but you smell clutch. You do smell clutch. I'm going to use the hill descent control. Downhill brake control on. So my foot is off the, I don't trust it. It goes too fast. You can see it didn't do anything. And this, my friends, brings us to the conclusion of our time with this new Hyundai Santa Fe. It was actually a pretty nice car to drive. It's pretty comfortable. The only thing about this 2.5 turbo powertrain is that it seems to be a little bit more inefficient than I would have expected. As for this XRT trim level, it really is more of an appearance package than anything in my eyes. Of course, you do get ground clearance and this shovel in the front that is useful, but the main hindrance for this car seems to be the dual clutch transmission. So in comparison to a Honda Passport Trail Sport, if you want to do off-roading, get the Passport. If you want to do everything else, you can get this. Let me know in the comments what you think about these new Santa Fe's and if you think the XRT trim is a worthy trim level. I appreciate you watching this far if you are. Thank you all for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, peeps.